What would you do with an extra $80,000 in revenue for your private practice this year? Sound crazy? It's not. I talk to private practice owners all the time, and almost every time I'm able to identify at least that amount, if not more, in revenue that they are missing out on because they aren't taking action on the right steps or because they haven't tweaked the things that they're doing to keep up with the state of the practice in 2025. But here, I am not going to have this conversation and leave you hanging. So, we're about to talk about what you can do to make sure that you're not missing out on money and maybe how you can give yourself an $80,000 raise this year. Now, first and foremost, I want to talk about why this is so important to me, right? I firmly believe that private practice owners, therapists, coaches, social workers, licensed marriage and family therapists, psychologists, I think you should be making whatever you want to make for the work that you do, right? And I know a lot of us are still tip-tap-toeing around that $60,000 a year mark, which might have been great 10 or 15 years ago, but does not foot the bill for life in 2025. But the majority of private practice owners that I'm talking to are knocking on that six-figure ceiling, right? It's kind of like that glass ceiling where you can kind of see what's on the other side of it, but you can't quite get there. You know that you could be making more money, but you also feel like you're working really hard to get to this number, so you're not exactly sure what you need to do to make a change. And unfortunately, I do talk to people all the time who are like, I'm working too hard. I don't have time to learn anything else. I don't have enough money to invest in anything else. I just don't know what else to do. And so they just stay stuck and they never actually get to where they could be. That, as a coach, is my pet peeve above all pet peeves. But it's also what gives me the energy to do what I'm doing. Because for most people, it's not actually going to require more work for you to get beyond that six-figure mark. It's going to be different, but it's not necessarily going to be any harder or more labor intensive than what you're doing right now. So let's start off with why most people are not making that extra $80,000 in their business. So there's generally a couple of things that are holding people back. So the first one is a lack of systems or systems that are not actually sustainable or structured in a way that will allow them to make more than what they're making right now. So you might be still doing a solopreneurship. Like, that's a really hard way to make over six figures. Not impossible, but a much harder way to do that. You might be still doing all the admin tasks on your own. Every time I hear somebody that's doing all their own admin tasks, I'm like, girl, hire you a VA. Because if you're still taking on what I call lower pay work, meaning that you generally could pay 50 to maybe 25% of your hourly rate to someone else to do that work, you are diluting the amount of income you're actually making and wearing yourself out because you're probably using a part of your brain that you don't even enjoy using. So you got to look at all of your systems. So the ways that people will find your practice, so like your marketing and your advertisement, how people will become a client. So the client acquisition process, the onboarding, the intake, look at the billing processes, how claims get paid, who checks on the claims to make sure that they get kicked back, who makes sure that the co-pays and the deductibles are paid. All of those pieces of the puzzle are the systems that operate your practice. And if they haven't been upgraded in the last 2 to 3 years, chances are you're not leveraging those systems to make you as much money as possible. If you're still doing most things like paperwork manually, if you're still manually sending out email links and things like that, it is more than likely costing you money, and spending a little bit of time or money to upgrade it will probably make you more money and save you time in the long run. And we kind of touched on this as being a solopreneur, but very often the quickest path to making more income is to go from being a solo practice to being a group practice. Now, this brings with it all sorts of additional concerns. So I do have like some links that I'll include around this video for you about how to do this, when you know it's the right time, etc. But one of the things that I encourage people to do is to start with maybe bringing on one additional clinician or maybe two if they want to work part-time. people that can supplement the work that you do. If you have referrals coming in to your practice, or requests coming into your practice, and you have to turn those people away, it's costing you money, because that's money that could be coming into your practice, right? And so not having another person on staff, or even another person on a contract or part-time basis, is costing you the overall revenue of your practice. Now, a lot of people are really hesitant to do this because they don't know where to start, or they're not really sure, how to manage it or how to navigate it. This is definitely something that we can talk about in a strategy session, or working with me as an ongoing basis. So I'll make sure that link is included around here for you to get information about that as well. But I want you to understand, it's not as hard as you think it might be. In general, the process of onboarding someone and hiring someone can be simple if you have the systems in place that will allow them to get acclimated to your environment. If you're still doing everything by yourself, then it's going to be a lot more complicated. That's why we talked about the systems first, because those systems will allow you to say, like, hey, this is our process for onboarding. This is our process for billing. This is our process for, how we do releases of information. So once you have those systems in place, it's much easier for you to say, this is the kind of person I want to work with. And this is the process for getting them trained and ready to take on clients as well. And a lot of times, having one or two additional people, even on a part-time basis, can generate as much as $80,000 for your practice in 1 year. The other reason I generally recommend this is because, as a private practice owner, I want you to own your role as a CEO. And that means it's okay for you to have a caseload, but I don't want you to have a full caseload in order to keep the practice thriving, because if you're the only person in your practice, you don't have a practice that's scalable. You don't have a practice that's sellable. You don't have a practice that can operate if you need to take time off for family, or because of an illness or a pregnancy. So you need to make sure that you have a business that can operate without you. That's how you have a business that has a high valuation. If you have systems in place and people who can be hired and onboarded, your practice will be something that can be sold or passed down to your family members in the future. And that builds legacy. And if you have gone ahead and done the work of having the systems in place and maybe bringing on an additional clinician or two, you are in a perfect position to start to diversify your income. And honestly, guys, this is where the revenue becomes like there's endless opportunities. We have had 5-figure and 6-figure contracts that honestly were super easy to deliver. And when you're talking about insurance companies that are constantly trying to, nickel and dime you down to the lowest possible rate per hour, when you can have a company that is going to pay you your full fee rate, and they send it in the form of a cashier's check or an ACH payment every single month on retainer, that is when you are really winning. A couple of years ago, we signed a contract with an organization to just do, a handful of sessions. The next year, they wrote us into a contract to the tune of $118,000 that was renewable for up to 3 years after that. And it was such an easy delivery. We were doing most of the sessions virtually. We also provided them with some virtual training. We did some psychoeducational materials for them. It was such a wonderful opportunity. And it didn't require endless numbers of hours. It wasn't super stressful. There was no fighting with insurance companies. And it was all available to us because we had done the work of putting the systems in place and scaling to include other clinicians in the practice. So we were ready to do this work. Now, a 6-figure contract may even sound a little scary to you. That's okay. You don't have to start there. You could literally start with a one-off training for $5,000 or $6,000, or writing a curriculum for $10,000 or $15,000. You could even start with something as simple as a psychoeducational portal or digital product sales. The important point is that you want to, at some point, remove your income from the link to your time. When you're not buried in administrative work, you have opportunities to branch out and do these different things. Whether it's a low ticket ebook sale or a high ticket event or ongoing retainer model, there is an endless number of ways that you can scale the income in your practice with just a few simple tweaks. And for most of us, that's going to mean a higher quality of life and even less work. So here's the question. Where is your $80,000 hiding in your practice? I want you to get down in the comments below here and let me know. Are you struggling in the systems area? Are you struggling to maybe scale to a group practice? Are you ready for more and are looking to branch into consulting or diversified income streams? Let me know what area you think is your next right step for growth in your business. So if you know that you are leaving money on the table and you are done with that, I would love to be the guide to help you get there. One of the things that I have really enjoyed doing in our practice is making things operate in the most efficient and effective way possible. And so I really enjoy doing that. And that's one of the reasons why I offer these strategy sessions. So below this video, you'll see a link to sign up for one of those strategy sessions. That's where you and I will sit down and have a conversation, 60 to 90 minutes over Zoom, and we'll talk about where you are right now, where you'd like to be in 3 to 6 months, and where you ultimately hope to be with your business in maybe 5 or even 10 years. We'll make you a plan that will help you get on track to get there. And I'm not talking about fluffy theoretical stuff. I'm talking about practical strategies. I'm gonna ask you what you've tried in the past. I'm gonna make sure that you're ready to try some new things now. I wanna hear what you don't ever wanna try again. We'll take all of that into consideration to make a plan that will work for you and your practice, and most importantly, for your life. I open up a few of these strategy sessions every month, and it's the start of the month when I'm recording this video, so chances are there's some openings available for you. But I want you to take action now, because every day and every week that goes by that you're not taking action to close those gaps in your practice, you're actually losing money. I don't ever want you to leave money on the table, because I want you to have the life first practice of your dreams. Take action today, sign up for that strategy session, and let's make it happen.